All right, shall we start? Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to my fellow nurses around the globe, and welcome to our International Nursing Symposium entitled Pursuing Excellence in Nursing, Becoming an Expert, brought to you by the Filipino Nursing Diaspora. I am Ralph, and I will be your moderator for today's event. This event is expected to last for 1 hour, and our program is very straightforward. But before we proceed, I would like to set out some house rules. First is always keep your account muted unless we advise you to do so, especially in the question and answer. We welcome coffee and tea to our event, but other than that, please avoid anything that can distract our speaker or other participants. We have allotted time for you to raise your questions at the end of the speaker's presentation. I strongly encourage that you type in your questions in the group chat or raise your hands in one of your options in your window screen. And lastly, and probably the most important house rule of them all, is enjoy the webinar and take the opportunity to learn and connect with our nursing colleagues. Okay, with that, I'd like to invite Ms. Mary Rose Uy, the President of the Philippine Nurses Association in Qatar, for our invocation.
Hello, thank you, Sir Ralph. Yes, let us put ourselves in the presence of God. God, we are here to celebrate the great success in a world full of chaos and calamity. We are embracing a moment of triumph in your name and glory. We may humbly ask you to shower our speaker today of your greatest inspiration so that they may share the most of their knowledge and impart it to the others on your goodwill. May we also learn and absorb the knowledge and experiences and put into practice what we may learn today. Bless all the Filipino nurses and all the frontliners all over the world. Give them more strength to face all the challenges that they will encounter in fighting this pandemic. Thank you for the blessings that you bestowed upon the Filipino nurses and diaspora. Guide and bless all our families, friends, and co-workers with the gifts of kindness, patience, love, and respect. Guard our hearts from pride and selfish gain as we celebrate today. Keep our faith strong in you and as our provider and our sustainer. May all glory of our achievements go up to you today and always, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Royce Uy, for that wonderful prayer. Indeed, we pray that God will bless us, will pour us with the shower of blessing and protection, especially in these crucial times. I'd like to recognize our distinguished guests who are with us today. Dr. Violeta Lopez, the President of Filipino Nursing Diaspora. Of course, Mary Rose Uy, the President of the Philippine Nurses Organization in Qatar. Rafaelito Hernandez, representative of the Occupational Health Nurses Association of the Philippines Incorporated, Qatar International Chapter. Maria Isabelita Rogado, the President of the Critical Care Nurse Association of the Philippines Incorporated. Ms. Melody Sarmiento, President of the Association of Nursing Service Administrators of the Philippines, and John Paul Silang, Representative of the Association of Filipino Nurse Researchers in Qatar. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. To give us his opening remarks and to give us an overview of what this Filipino nursing diaspora is all about, I'd like to invite Mr. Mark Santos, or rather I say Dr. Mark Santos, the Filipino nursing diaspora representative here in Qatar.
Thank you very much, Sir Ralph. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who are with us on this virtually online. The Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network is an international professional organization serving the Filipino nurses who are working and living outside the Philippines. Actually, the network is an offshoot from the International Roundtable meeting held last 17th of July 2018 at the Australian Catholic University. The network's mission is actually to enhance the role and value of Philippine nurses across the globe. One of our flagship programs is organizing webinars where we invite premier Filipino nurse researchers and experts, educators, and practitioners from across the globe. And the aims of this are first, to share insights, updates, and state of the art knowledge from among Filipino nurse experts. Second is to for us to hear and be inspired with the success stories from around the world about Filipino nursing diaspora. Third is to build capacity and update about the latest developments and science relating to nursing and health. We have ongoing partners with various nursing schools and organizations in the Philippines and also abroad. All of these webinars are provided for free to our Filipino nurses. And this will also be later on recorded and be posted in our YouTube account. Today's webinar is focused to our Filipino nursing colleagues, especially here in the Middle East. And of course, the rest of our Filipino nurses back in the Philippines are welcome to join us. May I also thank the presidents of the different organizations, namely CCNAPI, Prof. Bell, Press Rose, the PNA Qatar, Press Melody of ANSAP Qatar, um, Sir JP for the AFNRQ, and the Rafi from OHNAP Qatar, and of course the Betanu Society. With that, I would like to open and welcome you all for this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mark, for that, for giving us an overview of what FIND is. And indeed, I support the Filipino nursing diaspora of its aspirations to help out every Filipino nurses around the globe. And if you want to know more, especially if you are here in Qatar, you can directly communicate with Dr. Mark Santos or email find at findnetworkglobal@gmail.com. Before I proceed with our speaker, I would like to invite Dr. Violeta Lopez to give us some few inspirational words. Dr. Violeta?
Good afternoon and good evening to everybody. I just would like to echo what Mark Santos have provided you in terms of what Find Network is all about. And as president of the Find Network, I really would like to thank Qatar, Philippine Nursing Association in Qatar, in hosting this webinar so that we can listen to Dr. Rhoda Redulla in terms of her views and suggestions and recommendations for all nurses who would like to become future leaders in nursing. We really need our nurses to be leaders in every part of the world and show what we can do as nurses in our profession based on our dedication, compassion, integrity, and respect for all the people that we serve and help, especially during this time of the pandemic, which is also really a very, very timely time for us to listen to Dr. Redulla's webinar today. So I hope that everybody can have uh, access to this webinar, not only from the Middle East, but also as Raf said, this is open to everybody in the Philippines as well as to other partners that Find Network have, either in the US or in New Zealand, UK, and of course in Australia. So on behalf also of the directors of Find Network, thank you, Dr. Redulla, for your presence today and for the information that you will provide us. And I hope that at the end of this webinar, that we will be able to get some questions from our listeners and to provide some of their ideas and insights too about leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Violeta Lopez. Indeed, I agree with you 100% that this event couldn't be more in a perfect time. And if you are a self-motivated nurse, this is the right place for you. Our speaker for today is the Magnet Program Director of New York-Presbyterian and Weill Cornell Medical Center, a Magnet designated and the top 4 hospital in the United States. She previously served as Director of Nursing Practice and Magnet Program Director at the Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania. She has worked in academia in the course development and instruction for baccalaureate and graduate nursing students. She is an innovative nurse leader and passionate about mentoring and inspiring nurses to achieve their full potential. Through various leadership roles, she has successfully spearheaded nursing fellowship programs, led the redesign of a nursing professional practice model, championed the implementation of nursing peer review, competency assessment, and professional shared governance, key elements of the American Nurses Credentialing Center Magnet Recognition Program. In her role as National Chair of the Society of Gastroenterology Nurses and Associates Education Committee, she leads the creation, implementation, and evaluation of professional development programs and advance the science and practice of gastroenterology and endoscopy. Our speaker has authored and co-authored books, book chapters, and numerous peer-reviewed articles. She is the editor and author of Fast Facts for Making the Most of Your Career in Nursing. She is an evidence summary writer for Cochrane Nursing and a certified systemic reviewer for the Joanna Briggs Institute, an international organization focused on evidence-based healthcare based in Adelaide, Australia. She has presented in national and international forums on Magnet, professional development and management of hepatitis C. Most recently, she was an invited speaker at the Nursing Times Directors Congress, Nursing Times Careers Live, and World Health Organization Public Health England Conference. She is a peer reviewer for the American Journal of Nursing and Gastroenterology Nursing. She obtained her Doctor of Nursing Practice from Johns Hopkins University with honors and was awarded as an outstanding alumni in 2019. She completed a postmaster certificate from University of Pennsylvania, Master of Arts and Bachelor of Science in Nursing degrees from the University of Northern Philippines. She is nationally board certified in nursing professional development. As an internationally educated nurse, she is committed to promoting and supporting the professional development of nurse immigrants. She is an active member of the Philippine Nurses Association of America and the founding president of the Philippine Nurses Association of New Jersey, Gloucester County Subchapter. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you and let us all welcome Dr. Rhoda Redulla.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ralph. That was a very generous introduction. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Good morning to us here in New York and New Jersey. I am so happy to be part of your international webinar and really thankful that you joined us today. I will open Thank you. So who did we see in that video? And what was that video about? That was you and me, and looking at our many talents and gifts as nurses, right? I was so proud to see that video that was produced by Johns Hopkins Nursing in preparation earlier this year for the Year of the Nurse. As you know, and you have already heard, 2020 is the Year of the Nurse. And let me now pull my presentation.
Wala ka taon sa sound.
Hold on, my controls are. Okay. Yes, so our topic for today is pursuing excellence in nursing, becoming an expert. And I will just share and start with sharing with you my own professional nursing journey. There we go. So as Sir Ralph had mentioned in my introduction, I have started my career and journey. I was born and raised in the Philippines, proudly from Vigan, Ilocos Sur. And I started my career there in academia. And I was working at the University of Northern Philippines in the role of clinical instructor and nursing professor. And later on, life took me and my family here in the United States. And I was first working as a clinical nurse and eventually specialized in gastroenterology nursing and hepatology nursing, caring for a lot of liver patients. And later on in my, as within the last decade, I have been in various roles as a nurse leader and currently work at New York-Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center right here in Manhattan, New York. And I will just share with you a little bit of my organization and we'll tell you why later. So New York-Presbyterian is the top 4 hospital in the nation. It is #1 in New York for over 20 years now. It is an 862-bed academic medical center. It is one of 11 campuses in the health system, and my campus is considered the flagship campus of the hospital. And it is affiliated with 2 Ivy League medical schools. One of them is Columbia University. And for my campus, we are affiliated with Cornell University. So it is a training and teaching hospital for medical students interns, residents, and fellows with and even postdoctoral levels of education. And I'm proud to be part of Weill Cornell. Weill Cornell is known for, you probably have heard of George Papanicolaou. Dr. George Papanicolaou is known for the pap smear. So that's where it first started. That's his brainchild. It's also where the first double-blind controlled experiment, double-blind experiment to test the efficacy of many drugs and the synthesis of penicillin and even oxytocin. And why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you because I am so proud of the training and foundations that you and I have from the Philippines. And today we are talking about pursuing excellence, becoming an expert. And if you ask me, we are already that. But sometimes we just have to recognize that and make sure that we are optimizing our potential to make use of our talents, gifts, and skills, and really pursue the next level in our career, not only just for ourselves, but really as a gift to our profession. Again, if you ask me, oh, how do you become an expert? Oh, maybe there's a simple formula, right? You can, if you have your credentials, if you have your experience, you become an expert. But sometimes it's not really as simple as that. So today we will be talking more and breaking this down, and I'm hoping that you will be able to get these key takeaways that I will be sharing with you. Another quick formula that I can share is, or you probably have heard is, oh, how do you become an expert? Well, pursue your master's degree, pursue your doctoral degree, attend trainings, complete certification programs, implement a project, make sure you share it and present it in conferences, make sure you publish it, and then you become an expert. But then you're looking at me now and you're asking, oh, how do we do that, right? So as we talk about experts, and as I was preparing for today, I was thinking of all these eminent people. You can probably recognize some of them in the screen. Neil Armstrong, right? Who else? Mother Teresa and Gandhi. And I will pause for a moment and just ask you to put in maybe a word or an adjective that that comes to mind when you see this people of greatness, who to us have really pushed themselves at the highest of, to the highest capabilities that they can have. I will ask Sir Ralph to help facilitate and see what everyone is typing in our chat.
All right. So I hope everybody has something to share to us. I'm still waiting for somebody to type in a reply.
Okay.
Or you can raise your hands if you want to.
You can raise your hand as well. If you see, if you remember Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, or Neil Armstrong, what do you think are their qualities that made them achieve excellence in that level of greatness?
Yes, Mark Santos. Yeah. The question is, what do you think they do have? Probably in common. Yes, you're correct.
Yes, or an adjective or a quality that they have.
Dr. Violeta Lopez said compassion. Dedication.
Dedication. Great.
Maria Luisa said caring and Mr. Jerome talk about resiliency. Gilbert said perseverance, and Alvin said passion. We're getting a lot of adjectives, Dr. Redulla.
Very good.
Maria
Yeah.
Luisa said visionary. Mark Santos said expertise.
Yes. Very, very good. So all of those, I want all of us to reflect on as we think about what's the how? We saw this formula right here earlier on how to become an expert. How do we get there, right? Think of all those qualities and we would like to emulate them. And of course, our very own mother of modern nursing, Florence Nightingale. She has many quotes, but this one is my favorite, one of my favorites. I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse. And I will also share with you one more quote. I have been a nurse for over 10 years and have never for a moment regretted this career choice and have seized opportunities. This is from Dr. Patricia Davidson, who is the Dean of the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. You know what I felt when I saw this quote? I felt proud. Are you not proud reading this? And I feel so affirmed of myself as a nurse. And with her stature, she had said, never for a moment regretted this career choice after being here in nursing for over 40 years. And at this point, I will share with you a bit of my professional journey. So earlier in my career, before I left for the US, I had the opportunity to write a paper. This was part of an assignment, actually, a school project where in nursing history, we were asked to write about the nursing history in our province. This was in my doctoral class at the University of the Philippines at that time. I took my assignment very seriously and I visited former chief nurses of hospitals. I followed their lead on who to interview. I visited museums. I visited what now were people's houses, but used to be part of the earliest hospitals in my hometown in Vigan. And I was near the closing of that project when I was told that, oh, you know that the oldest living nurse in our province is still here. And that is Mrs. Rafaela Takeban Biteng. So her house is very far, very far from my hometown. And it was really, at that time, very hardly accessible, but I pursued it. And to this day, I considered it as one of the greatest gifts and experiences that I've had as a nurse. Really having that opportunity, listening on her experiences during the war and how she stayed on helping and caring for people in spite of their adversities. It really reminds me now of how we're delivering and doing our work in nursing in the pandemic, which many days we feel is a war zone, right? And that's the same for her. And I remember she shared with me her memoirs, and one of the things that I will never forget reading it is that they would go and deliver vaccines or immunize people through horse-drawn caravans, or crossing rivers by foot, or caring for a wounded soldier at gunpoint. And those are so remarkable and extraordinary that to me, I reflect on my daily life as a nurse and as a nurse leader. And I said, wow, I wish, I can share something like an experience like that, but that's really heroic. And after I finished writing that, I said to myself, I felt like I have poured so much energy and effort into this project, and I feel I need to share it. So initially it was published in our local local journal. We have a local, how do you call this? Like cultural journal, really taking it from the cultural influence and history in the province. But I said I maybe it needs to be read by more nurses and more healthcare workers. So one day I went on the internet. This was still in the speed of in the era of the dial-up networking in the internet. Like I was so patient looking up information, and I found the Society of Philippine Health History website, and there I found a contact. I emailed the contact. It was like info@spph.org, and the next day I got a response. It was from Dr. Willie Ong, who at that time was the lead of the organization. And he had asked me, I was surprised that he responded right away. And he asked me to submit the manuscript to him. And I submitted that, and it really struck his attention. And he said, I want to feature this on our website, but if you're willing, I will also want to see if we can feature this. The organization had a column in, call this, Health and Lifestyle magazine at that time. The column was called A Slice of History, and it will be one of those features. And I said, of course, yes, yeah, I would love for it to be published. But that was the beginning of a good relationship with Dr. Willie Ong. And at that time, he was working on the expanded Medicine Blue Book. At that time, it was Medicine Blue Book, but he wanted to partner with a nurse to be able to integrate nursing into the book. He invited me, and that was really the beginning of then my journey, being able to co-publish and be part of the expanded Medicine Blue Book. Now it is on its 7th edition. And here, during one of our vacations in the Philippines when we visited, he actually came to see me, and we still stay in contact. And one word that I wanted to share with you today is positive audacity. If you think about being audacious, right? You think about being brave, being bold in the most positive way. I'm thinking back now, what if I just finished my research and just kept it with me and filed it and never really shared it to anyone? Then I would have not have experienced all of these other achievements that I've had in my life, most likely, right? So that's one key takeaway that I will leave with you today. And the big question is, how do you pursue excellence, and how do you achieve your big dreams? I always want for you to think about your vision. Have you been you and I probably, I'm sure all of us have been in job interviews, and you probably have heard the question, what do you imagine yourself 5 years from now? But I will also ask you to reflect. Can you imagine yourself 5 years ago? What was your vision for yourself, right? What were the big goals and big dreams that you have set for yourself? And what do you think have you achieved? And for that part that you have not achieved, well, we celebrate all the achievements, but for that part that you have not achieved, what do you think have stopped you? Or what really deterred you from getting there? So I want you to reflect on that as we continue our talk this afternoon or this evening. And think about your vision, your mission, and even your values. And we think about all of this when we talk about strategic planning, right? In our hospital or in our school or in the university or wherever we work. So today I want to share with you on how you can create your professional roadmap and really pursue your road to expertise and clinical excellence. Start with a self-assessment. So how do you do that? You've heard about this acronym before, SWOT, right? S for strengths, W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, and T for threats. Let's break this down. So when we think about our strengths, these are the questions that we ask ourselves. What are you naturally good at? What are your talents? And what skills have you worked to develop? Do you like data? Do you like teaching another colleague? Do you like precepting work? Do you like speaking? Do you love writing? Do you love, well, there's other things here. I saw this really fun cartoon. Apparently, we can have many strengths. We can be a diplomat, we can be an artist, motivator, director, we can be a warrior. Right now, we're seeing a lot of that. But reflect on that and what are you naturally good at? How about weaknesses? We don't want to call it that sometimes, but these are areas where we want to improve. What are negative habits and traits that we have? Do we, do you see yourself sometimes procrastinating or catching up the last minute? Or do you find yourself very quiet in meetings and not being able to contribute actively? What are skills that you would like to work on and start improving? I always share this when I have my talk. One of my former teachers in high school told me that there are two kinds of people. There are people who are better read than heard, and there are people who are better heard than read. Who are you among the two, or are those two like areas of opportunity for you? So just an additional layer of reflection for us as we are reflecting on those skills, strengths, and weaknesses that we have. How about opportunities? So experts say that there are always new technology that are waiting to be pursued or waiting for us to learn. Of course, last year, who would have known that we will need to learn the skill of doing Zoom, right? I have how do you call this? I have workshops. We attend workshops at work right now, and they teach us what we need to do when attending Zoom, when presenting, or when hosting Zoom. But who would have known, right? And what new regulations that have come up to keep you current in your field. So think about that. And I think the key word here is never stagnate, and do not think that what you have learned in nursing school or what you have learned several years ago is still applicable now. We need to keep going. And the T is the threats, right? What is the biggest external danger to your goals, and what is the strongest competition for your job? And look at that, because you want to make yourself, again, as competitive as you can in a positive way, so that you can keep taking advantage of what you need to do to get to that next level, right? And how do we do this? As you are creating your professional roadmap, now you have your self-assessment. What do you need to do? So I have a question for you. When was the last time you examined your CV? When was the last time you worked on your CV or you updated it? Is it within the last year, last 5 years? Or you might say, Rhoda, wait, I have to start doing my CV. So examine your CV, and I will just go to this next slide and go back to this later. So if you look at this, this is a snapshot of a CV. And what do you put in a CV? Your curriculum vitae, or when you're doing targeted employment or fellowship application, or any scholarship application, for example. So they want a 2-page resume. So what do you put in there? You put in, of course, your professional experience that reflects progression, right? You have education, certification, training programs, conferences, presentations, publications, community outreach, and I could go on and on. And when I say examine your CV, look at it and see, it looks like all I've done in the last 5 years is really training. I've not really thought about going back for my education or presenting whatever I know, pursuing a conference and becoming a presenter, or going out to publish my work, or doing community outreach. So do that gap analysis, right? Once you have completed your gap analysis, it's time to develop your SMART goals. Nurses like you and I are experts with SMART goals. SMART, S for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant. And you know, one thing that I would emphasize in SMART, it is time bound. We do not have forever to implement all these goals that we have put out and make sure to make it happen. So go back to your CV. That's your homework for me. One key takeaway is go back and examine it and see what next steps you should do. And for 2021, write 3 things that you would like to achieve as your top goals. Okay. And remember, for every achievement, the first step is always having that goal. And I'm sitting down here, I'm thinking about, oh, when was that first time for me, for when I first had the opportunity to publish, or my first podium, and many other firsts. So coming here to the United States, I had already the opportunity to publish in the Philippines, but when I came here, I had to restart my nursing career, go back again to square one, take the NCLEX, start from an entry level position and start all over. So it was all as a nurse immigrant. It's almost insurmountable to think that it is almost we're thinking it's almost insurmountable to be able to pursue like professional development. I will share with you, and I share this a lot when I give my talks like this. When I was working as a gastroenterology nurse, I worked with a lot of experts in their field, like physicians in gastroenterology and hepatology. And one particular physician that we have, he is an expert in Crohn's disease or inflammatory bowel disease. And I noticed that in between patients, he would be going to the nearest computer and would start typing and typing, but it was not really about his documentation on one of his patients. It's really typing documents after documents. And one day I asked him, "Oh, doctor, you're so busy. It looks like you have a deadline." And he said, "Oh, I am writing my next book." Another time, he would say, "Oh, I'm finishing up reviewing an article," because he's an editor-in-chief of one of the gastroenterology journals. And then one day he came back, and it's his turn to speak with me. And he said, "Rhoda, you know what? You can really write about anything. So I want you to start writing." And I said, "No, I was so busy. I was just really trying to get through my day at the time. I was a young mom with a young child, and it was like so hard." But then I thought about it and took him on his advice and recommendations. So I wrote, and what I wrote about was this physician-patient communication. Because in my work, we really dealt, my line of specialty at that time, we dealt a lot with chronically ill patients, those who have chronic liver diseases and chronic GI issues. And I have been a witness to either delivering bad news to the patient or having the challenging communication, not only between physician and patients, but also us nurses. And cut the story short, I shared that with our doctor. And he said, "I cannot assure you, I'm the editor, but this needs to go to peer review. And if the decision is for us to accept it, then we'll move forward." And a couple of months later, it was accepted for publication. And I'm sharing this again with you because I want you to think about those opportunities that are abounding around you. And of course, you need to have that grit, and again, the positive audacity to pursue it. But you can make it happen. And one thing that I will never forget, that it was Dr. Lichtenstein who shared this with me, said that really, Rhoda, you can really write about anything. And that's the same advice that I have for you. You can really write about anything. And a how-to guide, you can start with what you are good at. Think about what you are good at. I was reading a paper a few years ago on the Harvard Business Review about a deep smart. Who is a deep smart? And that's you already. You are a deep smart of whatever you do every day. So think about what you know. We have our wound and ostomy care nurses, for example. That if they talk to me, I encourage them to think about really writing about teaching patients on how to care for their ostomy. That's what they're good at. So write about that and go out to present about that. And how else? Once you have developed your SMART goals, of course, one of the things that we have on the list is pursue education, right? It could be an advanced degree, whether you're pursuing your doctoral education, master's degree, postdoctoral education, but also not to forget continuing education and conferences. So I ask you now, when you attend your last webinar or conference, what is your key takeaway? You probably can name one or two topics, right? But I ask you today that reflect more and take advantage more of that experience. And you probably have learned about policy or regulation, clinical updates. Very important, you have met new experts. And at the minimum, you came back to your workplace and you came home energized and ready to change the world. Okay, so take advantage of those. Keep going and make sure you are keeping yourself up to date. And which is not news for you and me, but just making sure that you are taking advantage of all of that. I have another story for you. So I love stories. I have the great opportunity to meet Kate here. So if I will share with you, Kate Mcnamara is from England. Okay, Kate works in Nottingham University Hospital in England, and in England for several years now. Now they are speaking about a looming nursing crisis, right? But for a long time, they've been really trying to come up with innovative solutions to the nursing shortage. And this was, I believe, in 2018 when one of the nursing organizations launched a scholarship and wanted to sponsor a nurse and release that nurse for 4 months on the job and go around the world. How would you like that? 4 months, you don't work. All you have to do is go around the world and visit the places where nurses in England are coming from. So they could have come from nearby places in Europe, in Asia, and you would imagine Kate was in the Philippines. And Kate also came to the US because there are nurses who are working in England who are originally from the United States. And Kate's charge, so she won, right? She got the scholarship. It was very competitive, so many applicants. So Kate found herself in our hospital. She was referred by one of the leaders she met and said, oh, you have to go to York-Presbyterian, Weill Cornell. And when she met with our chief nurse at that time, she mentioned that her hospital in England is pursuing international magnet designation. So of course, our chief nurse had said, oh, you have to speak with Rhoda. You have to meet Rhoda. And so we met. And we spent the afternoon together, and we I shared our best practices. I learned more about her and what she was doing and what she would do when she goes back to England. And we parted ways. And she said, oh, I will see you again. I'll come back here in the US, or when you come to England, come and see me. So a few months later, I was in England. I spoke at a conference, but before that, I reached out to Kate and I said, Kate, how far is, I don't know, it was, I think, in Liverpool from Nottingham, and said, oh, it's like an hour and 15 minutes train ride. And I said, I want to come and see you. But that meeting evolved to be a huge meeting for her hospital, because then I was invited to be to meet with the rest of the leadership team in the hospital, and really shared best practices and strategies on how they can continue pursuing international magnet designation at the time they were submitting their magnet document. So if you hear me talking about magnet is the gold standard in nursing excellence that is being granted by the American Nurses Credentialing Center. And that's my role and my job at work. I have oversight of the magnet recognition program at my work here at New York Presbyterian. So beautiful ending to this story was that when they prepared for their site visit, I again engaged in their preparation, and I even had our nurses at our hospital be prepared, be with them in their through a webinar, and connected our nurses with their nurses. And in August, they were designated as the only international magnet designated hospital in all of England, the entire country, and the entire nursing workforce in England was really looking at this and celebrating with them. So again, if you ask me about lessons in effective networking, that's one thing that I would really share with you. Make sure that when you are meeting and meeting with new colleagues or attending conferences, make sure to make the most out of it. We are coming to the end, and there's one quote as a little pause and break I will share with you. You've heard before, big things come to those who wait, right? But they added from Abraham Lincoln, but only what's left from those who wrestled. So who takes charge of our own development? It's us, right? You and me. It is our responsibility and accountability. So some quick and final recommendations and suggestions as we close our presentation today. And I think we're still good in time, right? So if you ask me what have helped me pursue excellence and become an expert and pursued my own journey in becoming an expert, I would say, each one of this. I had the wonderful opportunity to interview nurses from different settings, from nurse leaders to frontline clinical nurses who have succeeded in their fields. And one thing stood out. That is involvement in a professional organization or involvement in my hospital through a committee, through a project, through an initiative, because that's really how you start, right? Also, find a mentor, get involved, and that also includes being involved in community outreach. There is always an opportunity for us to make a difference in the community. And make sure you are collaborating not only within nursing, but with other professions, such as our physician colleagues, our pharmacy colleagues. We have so many projects in the hospital where nurses, pharmacists, and doctors, respiratory therapists, social workers are working in collaboration with each other towards one goal, to deliver the best possible care to our patients, and to have a great practice environment, who would like to come to work in a joyful and rewarding environment. And who makes that happen? It's not others, right? It's you and your team. And one quick advice that I would have, and I saw this cute tweet from @WeNurses the other day, is self-care, right? there are many ideas. You write, you draw. Here lockdown in our lockdown era, we see a lot of our fellow nurses baking. I'm one of them, sometimes baking my own ube cheese pandesal, as a way, because I love to cook, I love to bake. Find respite in what brings you joy, because you need to fuel your energy and fill your bucket so you can continue being the best that you can be. And just one last quick plug. This is the book that was mentioned in my intro. It is available globally, Fast Facts for Making the Most of Your Career in Nursing. And a lot of the things that I shared with you today, you can find more in depth in this book. And that is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Dr. Redulla. Indeed, that was that was really inspiring, and it's not just because of the fundamentals, but because of the stories that you shared. If there's one thing that I will take away from your presentation, is that the word positive audacity. It's too good for a bumper sticker. It should be inscripted in our heart and soul. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna pause for a 5-minute break. And I cannot give you the exact time because we are in a different, we live in different time zones. So just check her time, be back in 5 minutes. And I would encourage again, everyone to type in your questions in the group chat, and I will read it to our speaker. All right, we'll be back after 5 minutes.
Okay.
Again, welcome back to our symposium. And before we proceed with our question and answer, we'd like to request everybody to switch on their videos. And I have to ask Jerome, Sir Jerome is going to take a screenshot of us. So if you would kindly switch on your videos and give us your most precious smile. Sir Jerome, maybe you can let us know when you're going to take the picture. Hi, Sir Jerome, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. You.
All right.
I think the slide must be stopped.
Okay, sure. I'm just gonna do that. All right.
Yeah,
there we go.
All good?
Yep, I think we're all good.
Next group. Okay, all good?
All right. Are we done, Sir Jerome?
Yep, good. Then the last one. Yep.
All right.
All good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your cooperation. We'll now move on to our question and answer. We're a little bit ahead of we're a little bit delayed on our time, but that's okay. We're going to give 10 minutes for this question and answer. So I'm going to raise the first question that we have, and this one is coming from Jacqueline Alejandrino. He says here, Dr. Rhoda, if I may ask, what is the biggest challenge you have faced in your magnet journey?
Thank you, Jacqueline. That's a very good question. I think the biggest challenge is really getting the buy-in from the hospital first, right? To embark to such magnitude, like that journey, because a magnet journey, because it is not only accomplished in one single step, and the word journey itself really conveys that it involves a lot of commitment and resilience to stay on. And I would say that for us particularly, it was the timeline that we have to be able to meet the requirements of getting our documents together, because you have less than 2 years to do that. And you have to really showcase and capture around 100 narratives. That means narratives are equivalent to projects, right? With data and all the information that you need to attach, and evidence that you need to attach with your document, and really also staying the course throughout the journey, and not thinking that, oh, we already are designated, we're good. So that I think is one of the biggest challenges, trying to stay on the course and making sure that, as you know, shared governance, having unit councils within each unit at the hospital, having nurses really have a voice by being leading, not just being part of them, but really leading these committees where they're all stakeholders, making sure that all of those are continuing and as robust as they can be.
All right. Dr. Redulla, she also made a follow-up question on what is your best practice in terms of mentoring?
I think that's a two-part question. It's either best practice in, you as the mentee, or you as the one who is being the mentor, right? Like, think about those two roles. But overall, I would, like, one of the best practices that I would always share is make sure to define your goal at the outset. Like, what is the gap that you have identified that you are seeking for mentorship? Because I have met, people of various from various settings, and all the directions where their mentoring experience have gone are so varied, but it started with them identifying the goal that they wanted to achieve, and also not just identifying the goal, but also making sure that you have timelines. You are okay. I am. We make sure that we're meeting regularly. That's one key advice that I have. You make sure that you're committing and meeting regularly, whether it is once a month, twice a month, or whatever that regularity that you define, and then make sure that you commit to it. And for every meeting, you need to break down your goals so that you are working towards this big goal. And there should be an open relationship. Approach it, both of you, the mentee and the mentor, with an open mind. Hopefully that answers your question, Jacqueline.
Okay. Our next question, Dr. Redulla, is coming from Alvin Sales. And Alvin, you can raise your question.
Okay, Dr. Redulla, good day, I guess, to you, and good evening to everyone else. I'm Alvin Rosales from Western Visayas Medical Center in Iloilo City. I'd just like to present a situation. I really like the concept of when you said we have to be positively audacious. And I do believe a lot of the younger nurses, or nurses who are not necessarily the older ones, but the junior nurses, had the tendency to do this. But unfortunately, I guess because of our culture, where the older generation kind of have the notion that the older that they are, the more experts that they are, and whatever new ideas that the younger generation would bring up would be seen perhaps in a negative way. Do you have any suggestions on how we'll be able to bridge this gap? Because a lot of the reasons why a lot of the younger nurses would rather not push through or do things that would actually elevate their practice and elevate themselves is the fact that every time that they actually do some actions that geared towards that, it would either be met by trepidation, if not negativism, coming from older people who do not necessarily believe that these younger people can do it.
Yes, well, that's a very valid question. And I know that personally, I can also relate to that, not just seeing it now happen, but I also have seen that myself in my own journey. And my advice would be to tap. I know that whether there are more senior or junior, junior or senior or more experienced colleagues, like I would tap on like those who can probably be tapped as leaders among the more experienced ones, who can have that who can be the influencer for the group. But I think in spite of all the barriers and in spite of all those like those situations that can come up, I would advise the younger group to do as much as they can that they can control. If you're working on a project, like finish it, like do it to the most support that you can. Probably it will not be as good as when you get their full support, but once you are demonstrating early outcomes, start sharing that in small groups or small meetings, and hopefully that can help overall with the group dynamic. Another thing is, really, it starts with leadership. As the leader of that group, there should be that commitment to really push the vision, that common vision, that we are not working for ourselves, but we are working to really improve the practice and quality of service that we have, whether it's in education or in service at the hospital or the university. And again, I think resilience and grit, and really taking each day as a new day, and never giving up, which is always easier said than done. But those will be like some, like two pieces of advice that I would share. Yeah. Outcomes will start speaking for themselves. So when you have a goal, whether you are earlier in your career or you are more experienced, make sure to keep going with your work and communicate the outcomes that you have achieved.
Thank you very
And
much.
and believe me, it doesn't only happen with like you would say the less experienced group and the experienced group, or the more seasoned group. Within them, if that's happening between those two groups, it's also happening within them. So I think there should be a bigger commitment from leadership to be able to address that.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Alvin, as well. Dr. Redulla, our next question is coming from Professor Bell. And it's kind of similar to the previous question by Alvin. The question is, it has been a common situation in the unit to have some form of bullying or eating the young. How can this be addressed?
Right. Yeah. So that is actually a global issue. We see that everywhere. We see that in healthcare. We see that in other settings, and it's sad. It's sad that it has come down to this. And I will share with you that even in my own experience, what nurses have shared is that bullying or incivility. I don't know. That's why the American Nurses Association has actually taken this as one of a part of their core work to address bullying and incivility. Is that it's not even just within nurses sometimes, but even, let's say, our other employees at the hospital, but they're more experienced. They end up being like having demonstrating this in incivility. And I would always go back to, it always starts with great leadership. So the commitment needs to come from them, but for all stakeholders to continuously communicate whatever issues that are coming forth. I know that leadership rounding helps. So when I say that it needs to come from leaders, leadership rounding helps. We have town halls almost to talk about what we call town halls, where everyone is free to share whatever their experiences are and seek help. And the HR department, obviously, human resources department needs to take this as a priority. But personally, if this happens to you, if this is happening to somebody, to a specific nurse, make sure that you are communicating this with your immediate supervisor, because these are situations that should not be ignored, and that we should just see it being being done without appropriate resolution wherever that addressing the problem. It's sad though that it is a global problem. Yeah, we
Right.
see and in my experience, even if you see exit interviews, there are exit interviews or exit surveys of nurses leaving the institution. One of the top reasons is because they have had experience of incivility that were never addressed, or they never had the courage to share with their supervisor.
I agree. All right. Our next question is coming from Diana Armonia. She's from the Philippines, and she would like to ask if what do you enjoy most and enjoy least in terms of mentoring?
What I enjoy most is hearing the ideas and seeing the enthusiasm and energy of my mentees when they come. And for example, I am facilitating and co-leading a fellowship program right now at work. And when you imagine one, like they're very young nurses. They're so a few of them are just like 2 or 3 years out of college, and they come with their project proposals of reducing alarm fatigue, or improving the safety culture using like this HFMEA tool, or developing a peer review process in our hospital. Like, wow. I said, first, I am really inspired by their energy and their passion and commitment to improve their immediate, work environment and really give the best care to their patients. That's what I like most. And the other one that I really like most is seeing them finish the program and seeing them progress in the mentorship experience and seeing them bloom, or even, wow, the next thing I know, they just got promoted to a leadership position, or they pursued an advanced degree, or that next level that they really wanted to do in the first place. The least favorite that I have with mentoring, I can't think of something that's jumping out of me right now, because I really love to mentor. But I think what I don't like then is when it doesn't turn out to be a positive experience for the mentee, which can happen, and it can really easily happen with life circumstances sometimes. There are things beyond our control that can happen, and that's when I just, of course, take a deep breath and say, they have committed 100% to this, but that's really not, like times are not cooperating right now for this mentorship experience to happen. So and then we as a mentor, you have to be prepared to, you're not only supporting them in an intellectual or professional way, but also in their professional development. But part of that many times is supporting them in their emotional needs, which is just really the reality of mentorship.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Okay. If you don't mind, Dr. Redulla, I would like to ask, here, from Gilbert Salakup. I'm Gilbert from Bahrain. In mentoring multicultural nurses, what would be the best qualities that you need to possess as a nurse and a leader to become more effective on your duties?
Another great question. First, I think awareness and knowledge of each other's culture is key, and fostering that, embracing diversity. Being in the United States of America, more so in New York, where you could be just a few feet from each other and you can hear and see 10 different cultures. from, from all continents around the world. So one is trying to express one thing and others trying to express another thing, and you discover you're actually just talking about the same, the same goal or expressing the same thing. So making sure you have, you have those venues to share your culture. We have our nurse, there are nursing diversity and inclusion committees, which can really help champion that. Have opportunities for educational sessions like this. I've shared my own experience and culture, several times at work, um, like so that they can learn about me, and they can and same with me when they share their culture as well. But to me, one key thing is being able to build that awareness, because with awareness, next is understanding
All
and
right.
supporting. The understanding and then supporting follows.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, probably the last question for today, and it's coming from me, if you don't mind.
Sure.
In my own opinion, when you say becoming an expert and pursuing excellence, first thing that come to my mind is to go outside of the Philippines. And I'm not sure if you would agree with me, but if you do so, what do you think is the problem, and what could be the best step or the best solution for this?
Yes. Well, I think you don't need to go anywhere to become an expert, because being an expert, lies within you. That will be like my first answer. All of us here probably just happens to be in different parts of the world, but our expertise is already within us. But really trying to dig deeper and nurture those skills, to be able to pursue that highest level of excellence that we can. And I think my advice would not be any different from what I have shared with the group today. Find your passion, find what you really love to do most. Sometimes you're good at it, you don't even realize it until somebody makes an observation, or you just discover it like one day that you actually like do it. So I would that would be my advice for you. And I think one key thing that I will always share in my talks is never forget the 3 P's and now the 4 P's, right? When you know something, find a way to disseminate it, through a poster, podium, or publication. And now we have podcast. Um, by doing that, you keep finding opportunities, and there's no opportunity that is too small, whether it is within your immediate work environment, whether it's in your local community. But now the world has opened for us, right? I would never think I would be speaking to you, to call to dear colleagues in Qatar and Manila, and I just have my dear student Romelia in vegan right now, and said like it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. So the world is open for us. You don't need to go anywhere, but you can pursue that. Of course, with clarifying your goals, seeking the right mentor, and pursuing the right opportunities with resilience and grit.
All right. Thank you once again, Dr. Redulla. And speaking of an open world, is there any way that our participants can follow you on maybe on social media? Or I believe you have a website or a blog spot.
Yes, I do have a blog. It's Be a Great Nurse. I can share that with you, Sir Ralph,
Right.
Sir
Sure.
Mark. And I'm on Twitter at Rhoda Redulla, Redulia, but here they call me Rhoda Redulla, at Rhoda Redulia. I'm also on Instagram and
Mhm.
Facebook, of course, but professionally, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay. Thank you again. And before we conclude with our symposium for today, I'd just like to announce to everybody that our next symposium or webinar, if you may call it, is Understanding the Professional Quality of Life of Nurse Leaders. Why does it matter? On Saturday, 12th of December, 2020, 9 a.m. Manila time with Dr. Warley Remedio of New York Presbyterian Hospital. And according to Mr. Jerome, in order for you to get your e-certificate, please click the link that's pasted on our chat group. Okay. All right. So once again, thank you, Dr. Redulla, and thank you for our participants for your cooperation and for your questions. Indeed, this event is really meaningful. And we'd like to thank also the committee, the organizing committee of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network. Again, if you're in Qatar, if you want to know more about FIND, please directly communicate with Dr. Mark Santos, or you can email findnetworkglobal@gmail.com. We'd also like to thank the Philippine Nurses Association in Qatar, the Association of the Filipino Nurse Researchers in Qatar, the Critical Care Nurses Association of the Philippines, and the Occupational Health Nurses Association of the Philippines. So that concludes our symposium for today. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you very much.